So, on this episode of Learning Leaders, I'm so excited to have Kitty Shields with me. Kitty and I go way back, elementary school together. We went to high school together. We swam at the local swim club together. So, did a lot of things together. So, that was fantastic. Kitty and I have a tradition where once a year on her birthday, I call her, and on my birthday, she calls me. So, we haven't really talked for a long time. And then I saw Kitty had this book. And I thought, wow, what a great book to think about leadership. And so, Kitty, so glad to have.
Thank you, Carl, for having me. It's always a pleasure, even if we only get to talk twice a year. Here, it's an extra bonus today, so thank you.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited about it. So, the first question, tell a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the book, and then why you decided to write the book.
Okay. Well, I have Western Pennsylvania roots with you, and I am married. I'm a stepmother. I'm a retired Delta Airlines flight attendant. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. And I just did a thing. I wrote a book that I've always wanted to do, and it's called Coffee Life Thoughts One Cup at a Time. And I did it based on a collection of mugs. I probably have 60 mugs. And each mug has a life, I don't like to say life lesson, but something to think about. And I like to start my day off with positivity. What better way than a great mug? My daily reflection reads, and we just get the day started that way. So, and today I have the Black Dog Martha's Vineyard. It's a trip that I went on with my mother, but it also reminds me of two very dear friends of ours, Karen and Pete Stubler. So I selected the mug today for a little throwback to Knock High School and Penn Valley Athletic Club.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, Karen and Pete was the best man in my wedding. So, that's great.
Oh, Petey,
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah,
That's
it's
great.
fantastic. So I've got, a copy of your book here. So fantastic. Everyone wants to take a look at it. And I also, of course, brought my one of my favorite coffee mugs, my lynda.com mug.
Linda.com, love it.
Yeah. So when I first started doing those courses, it was a lot of fun. Um, and it's a great mug to keep coffee warm. Actually, I don't drink coffee. I drink tea, but to keep my tea warm.
Close enough, Carl. Close enough. That's great.
So Kitty, tell us a little bit about the book. Why coffee mugs as a metaphor?
Great question, Carl. I use my coffee mugs as life experiences, life lessons, and when I look at them, I think of a positive memory, something that has happened that I like to reflect on, and I tie it all into a story, and it always has a positive ending going back to the mug. How I got the idea to write about coffee mugs started during COVID. I was just at home and wanted to start writing. I started a blog, and my brother Jeff, who also has done some writing, he said, Kitty, write about something you know and love. And I wrote about coffee mugs. So that's how this got started. And with a little help and encouragement from friends and family, I decided to write a book. So that's how I started using mugs.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I think you said you have 60 coffee mugs. So I guess the natural,
Approximately.
yeah, question is like, where do you keep them? Like, yeah,
I know, Carl. It's a dedicated space. It drives my husband Rustin crazy, but it's right above the coffee maker, and it's a great reach every morning. And that's how I start my day, with a really strong cup of robust coffee.
yeah, no, that's fantastic. A lot of people do. So it's a good way to start the day. So interestingly, as you put this book together, did you journal before? Did you just keep notes and just write a little bit at a time, or did you sit down one day and kind of like, boom, there's the book? Like, how's that process work for you?
A little bit of all of the above. I do journal, and once I put this project in motion and I was working on it on my computer, I kept a tablet in the car. And if I would hear something on a podcast, or if I would be out and about and something happened, I saw a sign, I would be writing things down. I journal every morning. If I would hear something on anything that I was listening to, TV, radio, friends, I would write it down and just kind of put all the thoughts together with the I've got notebooks all over the house, and just did it that way.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, always keeping notes and journaling, and it's such a good practice to have for reflection, and then obviously for converting it into a book. So, speaking of the book, like in one chapter, you talk about coffee across the miles at Mom's place, and you and I we used to ride our bikes to Penn Valley and ride your bike over to your mom's place, but. That chapter talks about how a person, a leader basically, can help others to remember to strike a balance in their lives, right? A balance between work and a balance between, family. And so as a leader, what responsibility do you have, or do you think people have, to help others balance their work life? You also talked about this a little bit in the chapter you talked about Clarion. So this whole work-life balance thing, you were worked in the airline industry for a number of years. I don't know how balanced that is if you're flying and traveling everywhere, but so
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so can you talk about that?
Of course, the two mugs, the coffee across the miles at my mother's place, a leadership skill that I take from that is be present. When a leader is present, makes a physical appearance, goes to see whomever they need to go see. I don't know if you remember the United Airlines commercial in the 70s where the gist of the
No, I
commercial was
wasn't born then, but yeah, go ahead.
you're older, Carl.
Right.
So the gist of that commercial was, why are we losing our customers? Here's what we're going to do. Here's an airline ticket. Back in the day with an airline ticket, take this ticket, go face to face, meet the customer, find out their needs, find why we're losing them, and get back in touch. So the mug with my mother's coffee life thoughts with my mother, that is, go face to face, make sure that you have a presence so they know that you care, and while you're there, listen. The
Yeah.
balance of a work life, I think that sometimes companies, and I can speak for Delta, sometimes they forget. Sometimes I think a company can forget that we're human and we're tired and we make mistakes, and we might need a little backup from leadership. We might need support. We might need that a girl, that a boy, just something to know that you're out there watching and appreciating us when we are out there trying to represent you and give you a first-rate product. And any time that you get kudos in some shape or form, I think is very important to a workforce.
Yeah, that's a great insight, and I think, I mean, the thing I like about the idea of the coffee mugs is it's a very low friction. So of course there's like management courses where you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that, but reading the book, it feels like you're sitting down with a mug, and you're just kind of absorbing the life lesson and kind of go, yeah, this is the way that it should be, or this is the way that I should think about it. So do you ever find yourself like giving away coffee mugs? Is that like a gift that you do as
Oh
well? Because
yes,
it's kind of,
all the time. Anyone that comes to visit gets a local coffee mug so that they take it home and remember me.
oh,
So,
fantastic. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
great,
so that's my
and that,
little post gift.
yeah, and that speaks. I also think that speaks to the idea of at a very small level, like being known for something. Having kind of, oh, Kitty's the coffee mug person, or oh, and then it just kind of, I think it just kind of gives a sense of consistency or a sense of grounding, especially in the world that we're living in now, where everything seems to be 1,000 miles a minute, and what's grounded and what's real and all that kind of stuff, and having coffee with your favorite mug, and talking over someone, and visiting friends, and trying to have that balance. I think that's all very grounding, very, very good way to think about it.
Very, very good point. And a simple gesture of a coffee mug is when you hold it in your hand and it's warm and it's comforting, and it just takes you away. And I truly love coffee mugs. I can't say enough about it. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah, and
Plus,
it
I
comes
love
through in the
coffee,
book,
Carl.
right? Yeah, and it comes through in the book. So
Oh, thank you.
really, really, it feels like you're sitting down being comfortable. So, again, moving back to the book, you take incidences and anecdotes, and you turn them into lessons. So what's the value of that? And do you convey the lessons, when you became, probably you were managing people at one point, you've been there for quite some time.
Absolutely. Anytime I think anyone starts a new job, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. So you want to make people feel comfortable and that they're part of the team. And it's unfortunate, but sometimes people do check their manners when they're boarding an airplane. And I have seen it happen to myself, new hires. And you just make them feel comfortable, like, hey, I've been there. I've had that experience, and just keep doing this. And sometimes giving pointers of just a way to make the job a little easier for them and a good end result for the customer. And it happens every day. And I just think teamwork and wanting the good positive end result. And at the end of the day, we show up to work and we have to represent ourselves and put our best foot forward, but our company is also relying on us to do the same. And just a matter of teamwork and working together gets all of that accomplished.
Mhm. So, I've been on several flights. I used to be executive platinum on American, so I'm sorry about that, but that was flew out there. But since COVID, that has kind of gone away. So I've seen a lot of weird flying stuff. Uh, we could tell stories, but the question that I have is like, how do you deal with that? It's a confined space. People are nervous about flying.
Well, I wrote a little on one of my coffee mugs in the book. It's the theme of it is to just Kyle it. And Kyle is a friend of my brother's that did a tour for us in Lake Worth Beach. And without going into details of the story, this gentleman handled himself with the don't sweat the small stuff. He had grit, tenacity, was able to roll with the punches and just keep moving. Like whatever fresh hell that he was going to be in, or that I sometimes was on the airplane. You just Kyle it. You just learn to roll with the punches, not take things personally, and also to just put your best foot forward and put yourself in that person's shoes. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they lost a loved one. Maybe they lost a job. Give people the benefit of the doubt. And also sometimes the humor can circle back around and make someone seem, or maybe say to themselves, maybe I shouldn't have said that. And I've gotten many apologies just because I quote unquote Kyled it. Don't sweat the small stuff. And it worked out in my favor. And then everyone leaves the airplane, your work area, your office happy,
Yeah.
and together as a team and with a positive end experience.
Yeah, that's a good way to approach it. With a little bit of humor and a little bit of them not sweating the small stuff, and kind of shuffling it off. That's a great way to do it, because I don't know if I could handle that job of trying to deal with so many different people doing so many different, sometimes just plainly weird things on the plane that it. I'm like, what is like? Have you ever flown before? Have you ever seen people before? Have you ever?
It's my next book, Carl. That'll be my next book.
That would be a great book. And one of the great things about this book are the illustrations. Like, you've got some great illustrations here. There's a great illustration, and you've got some more. Like, so every chapter has at least one, really fun illustration. Can you tell us about that process? Like, how did you go about getting the illustrations and deciding to cut? Because I know about publishing books, colored illustrations is not inexpensive.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, the artist is my son. And I approached John Ross to do this project with me. And I said, Bud, here's what we're going to do. You're going to read my words. And then if you could draw something, John Ross has been illustrating, drawing since he was 5, and he loves it. Although when he has to do it, I don't know how much he loves it. So this was
Right, like
a
anything.
project for him, and with working and social life, and he's a big sports fan and he goes to all sorts of sporting events. It took a little while for the two of us to get our schedules together, but we did it. And I My favorite mug is the Waffle House mug, which John Ross did get for me, and I tell the history of our relationship with that mug, and it's a special one.
Yeah, fantastic. That's I mean, it really adds to the book, and the fact that it's your son. I mean, that adds just another dimension to it. And you know, the whole book is like cozy and comfortable, I think. And especially
Thank
now, I think if you look at in businesses and you know, there's craziness in the government cuts, but that's starting to trickle down. I'm reading more and more about companies laying off people and everything like that. And so we're not having this cozy, you know, there's few places to get this cozy kind of experience. And I think, you know, the book kind of brings that to bear there, so which is really nice.
There's a lot of teamwork in roundabout ways mentioned in the book. And teamwork can be just going for a weekend with your staff and or taking them out to a dinner and showing appreciation and bonding and learning about their families and their pastimes, because when that is known and comes front and center, when your staff or colleagues need a little help or a little extra understanding of something that may be going on personally in their lives, that's, you know, about it now. So I do think that there's many mentions in the book of bonding and taking time to be together that help one another with your colleagues, staff, friends, family. It's just important. It's important to make time for each other and to understand what we're how we tick, what we're all about.
Right. And I think it's good to be reminded of that in a way that's not heavy-handed. I think sometimes, you know, you read business books, I devour tons of them, but they're all kind of like, you know, here's this end goal, which is, you know, profitability or to make money for the company or whatever. And to read the kind of the business lessons that no, hey, also, you know, you got to be human.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the person that comes to work is human. Your interaction with them needs to be human. You know, let's not it's not
Mm-hmm.
all about the bottom line, which I think a book like this can kind of surface that because it's
Yeah.
very lighthearted, yet the messages are very
It's simple. There's a mug that talks about using a name. Who doesn't love to hear their name? If someone says your name, it just makes you feel good.
mhm.
There's a mug in the book that talks about saying thank you. A thank you is so important, no matter how you do it. It's just nice to be thanked and know that you were appreciated. And I really like to thank. I love to send thank yous and thank friends for what they do for me, and I never forget it. It can really be life changing. There's another mug that talks about just go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and help someone out. If you see that someone is struggling, just go ahead and do it. There's on the aircraft, it was pretty much known that no one is finished working until everything is done. And if my aisle A is faster than A B, then when you finish, get over to that other aisle and help them finish. Like just like have the foresight to see who needs what and just be there for them and lend a helping hand.
Yeah, I really like that. And the idea of thank you, I think that's so underrated. So many people forget to do that, and it's really important. And I know even like a little thing like you know, as teaching, every once in a while I'll get like a thank you email or something like that, and it just means a lot. And it's a little thing, and but to be able to think about that, and especially like in business when you almost never think of thank yous or sending thank yous or something like that, it's a really good reminder as a leader to do that, to drop notes, to drop emails to folks, even as you said, like a little like a coffee mug. And you know, it's not very expensive, but it can have a really great message, and people can cherish it and keep it. So that's a good idea. Now, you were a flight attendant, I think, for 29 years. I think 29 years, 11 months, and 18 days. So
That's it, Carl. You've got it. To the
that's quite a lot of travel and quite a lot of interaction with folks. So, what and you've probably, you know, you said just Kyle it and kind of to deal with those problems. But what is the number one thing that you think of, or a thing that you think of when you think about, okay, you know, you're flight attendants. I think you get up like at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to like an early flight. And you get, like, how do you? prepare mentally for this task that you're going to have? And what are some advice you have for people that have to, get ready for tasks that maybe they're not all that enthusiastic about?
Well, the main thing that I will give Delta Airlines credit, and every company should do this, is repetition, 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 because as evidence of the most recent incident in Canada, that training is stressed, and it is so, you go over and over and over drills and evacuations and commands. You do it in your sleep. And when flight attendants are on their jump seats, like sometimes it may seem like we're just like can't wait to get out of there, but we are mentally doing a mental review just in case we need to be ready and be prepared. So I feel that companies, that's how Delta prepares their flight attendants. But I feel that companies with repetition of, let us know what you want us to do, like put it out there, and just give us the training and the whatever tools that we need. Like we need tools, going back to the airplane, to make passengers, guests happy. But we also need to be able to remember why we were there, safety first. And we better be able to evacuate that airplane and do our best, because our lives are on the line as well.
Mhm.
It's not, hey, follow me. It's like, get everyone off the airplane, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to have a great end result. And I truly believe that flight attendants are ready to go and they're prepared, and the training that they go through. I graduated from college in May of 89. I started flying in August of 89, and I thought, oh, this flight attendant training, it's going to be so easy. It 4 years of college was a breeze compared to flight attendant training.
Wow.
They Delta just gets their training right. They have you ready to go on the line and be prepared. And all companies, I hope they're able to say that. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. The repetition. I think a lot of people think, especially like you think about leadership training or community, you're like, oh, I go to one class, I got it, I'm a good leader. Or you go to one class, oh, I'm a good salesperson, so I got it, I don't need any more sales training. But when you look at life and death training or situations, that you really need to practice it over and over again, and not just physically practice it, but also, like you said, like every day or every time you land, you're going over, okay, in your head, what are the safety procedures? What do I have to do if this happens? What do I do if this happens? What do I have to do about this? And it's such a good reminder that that mental rehearsal, the physical rehearsal, the practice and training, and oftentimes, again, in a lot of corporations, it's not that amount of training over and over again. And people, so it's so interesting because what you're dealing with is safety first, and you're hurling through the air, but a lot of people are like, oh, oh, I don't need to practice sales again, or I don't want to, and so the learners themselves push back a little bit, not realizing the utter importance. And I always go to the sports analogy, like Tom Brady, he pretty much knows how to play football. But you know what? He's the last person at practice. He's the first person at practice. He's doing it. He doesn't have to, but he wants to be the best and to do it correctly. And it sounds like with Delta and the training too, that's the same thing. Like you want to be able to do it in your sleep. And it really shows when you have an air disaster how maybe not disaster, air malfunction,
Incident, or yeah. Mhm,
incident, that's the word,
mhm, mhm.
how well flight attendants respond and help and assist. I mean, it's incredible the amount of it just must kick in.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. And your adrenaline is going. I've had some emergency experiences, and it all just kicks in, and you just have to do it. There's, I one incident where I had a fire on board the airplane. You can't be like, you know what, I fought the last fire, so it's your turn. Like, you just have to step in there and be ready to go, and everyone else needs to know the protocol. You need
Yeah.
to call the flight deck because we need to get the airplane on the ground. You just have to be thinking, and all of those things come back, and it's really incredible. And that can go to any company. in whatever their workforce is. There's just good training, and I think a lot of it can come down to manners and just making people feel important, using a name, thank you, be present. It's pretty basic, good life. Live your best life and make people feel important.
Yeah, no, that's such great advice, and really comes through in the book, when you read it. And so, as I said before, it's really a nice, uh, good way, cozy way to think of really hard life lessons. It's not hard, but it's something that people don't do all the time. People decide, not to respect other people or not to give them
Right.
credit,
Mhm.
or it's much easier apparently to do that than not. But in the long run, that's not the best way to do it. We've gotten kind of deep and really philosophical, but let's come up a level maybe.
Yes.
So you self-published the book, and
Yes.
a lot of people are like, I've written several books myself, and a lot of people are like, how do you write a book? And I'm like, well, write down the first word, then you write down the second word, and you keep going. But not a lot of people do that. So how did you actually decide to write and finish the book, and then what process did you go through to get it published?
Well, actually, it was a podcast that really kicked this into gear for me because it was a Mel Robbins podcast, and Mel made the statement of, "Are you going to write your book, or is it just going to sit on the shelves on paper and never get out there?" And I thought, I really want to do this. Plus, John Ross, my son, was involved with a lot of work, and that was a great motivation for me to go ahead and do it. And you write books, Karl. Like for me, it was very difficult to let the release go and say, okay, this is going out there and we're going to do it. But you have to take a leap. You have to believe that in your words and believe in what you are doing. And I wanted to check a bucket list. So I did. And I found a friend that is also an author, and he directed me to the publication, to a publisher, and worked with them, and here we are. And it was a hesitation. It was at least 2 years in the works, and it was a goal I wanted to do, and it feels good. And a friend of mine the other day, she said, Kitty, you've got a great light about you. And I think that happens when you do a goal or you do a thing. You just go do it, and it makes you feel good.
Yeah,
And
no, that's great. Yeah, it's so you do have a light about you, I think. I know, and it's been around for a while. For the long, I'm not going to calculate how many years, but for the while that we've known each other, like you said, when you put something out there like a book, you're worried. You do have the risk of people not liking it. You just have to be okay with that. And I've noticed your book tour, and you got pictures everywhere, and you're doing book signings and stuff like that. So what's that like?
oh, it's fun. It's fun. It's a learning experience, though, and it's just to me, and anything that I can do to promote the book is what I should be doing. And you just have to have fun with it. I said to my husband Rustin the other day, no stress in this because this is a fun goal. And that's just how I'm looking at it. And I know we spoke a few weeks back, and I said, "Oh, I'm probably driving people crazy on social media," but that's what you use. That's what you do today. So it's I'm doing a thing, Karl, and
Yeah,
just
that's great.
gonna roll with it. So
No, that's awesome, and it's an awesome thing. What we talked about a few weeks ago, you also said so. This is a great collection. Do you have another collection? Do you think you have a second book in you somewhere?
I do. I have a few ideas, but I don't want to do it without John Ross. So, because I think he is the best part of the book, I truly do. So, I hope he will agree. Rustin approached him yesterday about, hey, T has something that she's thinking about, and there was no answer. He put a lot of time into the illustrations,
It
and
shows, yeah.
and to your point about the publication and colored illustrations, I don't think people realize how expensive that can be. And so therefore I cut some corners. So I did the editing myself, and I Miss Savelli, I should have just paid close attention, Carl, when we were doing the journaling in ninth grade. There's some errors and I'm like, oh my gosh, but you have to do it. You
Yeah.
just have to forgive yourself and just go do it.
Right. Well, someone told me one time, if you're pleased with your first release of a product, you release too late.
Interesting.
Right? Isn't that
Thank
great
you.
advice? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's really
Someone
cool.
also told me you're never done with a book. Somebody just takes it away from you. That's true too. So
Good thoughts. Good
yeah,
thought.
great thoughts about writing.
I remember journaling in Miss Savelli's class, and I loved that. And that is probably how I got started to want to write.
Yeah.
So that's hats off to Knock High School.
Any final gems or leadership pieces or book pieces you want to leave us with?
Well, let's see. Other than one time you were my leader as the head lifeguard at Penn Valley Athletic Club, and you were fantastic.
Thanks.
Let's see. I just think the key to life, Carl, is to make people feel good, make people feel important, and just want to be around you because you make them feel good. And that can happen with friends, family, companies. It's just what makes the world go around. So spread the sunshine and go get a great cup of coffee and always start your day off. Always be happy to be here.
Yeah.
It's just great. It's just great to be here.
Oh, fantastic advice. And so just remind everybody to check out the book. You can get it on Amazon or your local bookseller. Isn't that what they say? But
Yes.
fantastic book, and you'll enjoy reading it. So thanks, Kitty. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you. Always great to see you. Talk to you in April.